Hello, my lovely peaches. How are you? So I wanted to make a video with a few clips of JD Vance, vice president nominee for the dumpster.
catlovedreamingpeach.com.
So I really wanted to point out, like, he makes this particular pained smile face. I don't know, I can't even imitate it. It's just like so painful. So I did a few clips of that particular smile, and then I couldn't resist just screen recording ridiculous things he said and a little bit of Trump talking about how insignificant and unimportant he is. And yeah, it's really sad. Like, this is the guy that's on the ticket, and pathetic. So I still am working on that other video, and I'll see if I get it out today or not, which is on the Constitution. And then I talk about whether or not Donald Trump should even be eligible to be on the ballot, which I think the answer is to me, it's very clear and obvious. The answer is no, but to his Trump MAGA cult loyalists who are in power, the answer is yes. So that video will be coming out later.
Here in Cincinnati. Let's start off with the Democratic National Convention.
Sure.
Senator J.D. Vance, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Senator, good to see you. Your thoughts? Did you hear this speech? What'd you think?
You're taking a time out there in Nebraska. We're talking to you early in the morning, but you look good. All right, I'm a mess, but you look good, Senator. But thank you for taking the time. This is
J.D. Vance, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Senator, good to see you. Your thoughts? Did you hear this speech? What'd you think?
You're taking a time out there in Nebraska. We're talking to you early in the morning, but you look good. All right, I'm a mess, but you look good.
And so Donald Trump has enlisted the help of Tulsi Gabbard to prep for his debate. I'd like to know how you were prepping for a debate with Tim Walz, who has described himself as a bad debater. Who's helping you, and how are you prepping?
Well, I found a good friend from back home who embellishes and lies a lot, and I'm having him stand in for Tim Walz. That's what we're doing during our debate.
Putting aside for a second that JD and Trump have been two of the biggest liars we've seen as candidates to major elected office, it's really funny to hear him say he has friends.
This evening news anchor and managing editor Nora.
Elect our president not based on skin color.
Trump's black jobs comment and Michelle Obama's response. Here's what he said.
I think we should elect our president not based on skin color, but on merit and on who's going to do the best job. What I really dislike about a lot of the rhetoric coming out of the Democratic Convention is, on the one hand, you see speakers say that they believe in unity. On the other hand, they're attacking Donald Trump and the people who voted for him. They're saying that Donald Trump dislikes people because of skin color, when in reality, Donald Trump dislikes Kamala Harris's policies because those take a sequential approach to it. You are going to have to deport some people. If you're not willing to deport a lot of people, you're not willing to have a border when there are 20 million illegal aliens in our country.
10 to 15 million people, this is like, I mean...
Well, John, I think that's the wrong attitude to take of it. Okay,
so you go knock on doors and ask people for their papers.
Again, but
I
think this is the wrong attitude towards it, right? There's 20 million people here illegally. You start with what's achievable. You do that. And then you go on to what's achievable from there. I think that if you deport a lot of violent criminals, and frankly, if you make it harder to hire illegal labor, which undercuts the wages of American workers, I think you go a lot of the way to solving the illegal immigration problem. But look, President Trump is absolutely right. You cannot have a border unless you're willing to deport some people. I think it's interesting that people focus on, well, how do you deport 18 million people? Let's start with 1 million. That's where Kamala Harris has failed, and then we can go from there. Once you stop Kamala Harris's...
Well, we got to start off getting rid of some of these terrible people. If you're not willing to start somewhere, how are you ever going to start getting rid of these evil, awful people?
10 to 15 million people, this is like, I mean...
Well, John, I think that's the wrong attitude to take of it. Okay,
so you go knock on doors and ask people for their papers,
again, but
what do you do?
let me finish. I think there's a wrong...
But I think there's a wrong attitude. Right. It's 20 million people here, right? But, they're all illegal. So, what we don't get rid of all of them all at once, Like, you're not going to have a border if you're not willing to deport people, like violent criminals. And frankly, you make it harder to hire them, because we gotta solve it because Trump is absolutely right. You cannot have a border unless you're willing to make sure you get rid of people, and we gotta be evil, all the way evil.
I'm Tina Hilliard with Channel 12 from up in Milwaukee. Obviously, there is a big event happening not too far away from here, over in Chicago. Did you catch any of the DNC tonight? Or last night? If you did, what were your immediate thoughts?
Well, Chicago, did you catch any of the DNC tonight? Or last night? If you did, what were your immediate thoughts? Well,
Chicago, did you catch any of the DNC tonight? Or last night? If you did, what were your immediate thoughts?
Obviously, there is a big event happening not too far away from here, over in Chicago. Did you catch any of the DNC tonight? Or last night? If you did, what were your immediate thoughts?
Well, my immediate thoughts were all the people booing. I agree with them. That was my response to it, was boo. I watched little bits and pieces of it. We were out campaigning yesterday, so I got home to Cincinnati a little on the later side yesterday. So I watched some of it. I will say just the contrast between the public safety policies of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is really...
Well, now that we've seen how his scrunched up fake smile looks, can you imagine a grown man walking around with this hairdo? Like, do you think he asked the barber to do that, or the barber just did that because he despises this man?
Okay.
That fake pinched face is just pathetic, and the back of it is even worse.
Okay, good. Everything, yeah, I mean, a lot of glazed here, some sprinkle stuff.
A little too serious. Charlie likes to box the other table. A little bit different here. You've been criticized as being a little too serious, maybe angry sometimes. What makes you smile? What makes you happy? A little too serious, maybe angry sometimes. What makes you smile? What makes you happy?
Well, I smile at a lot of things, including bogus questions from the media, man. I mean, look, I think I smile
a little too serious, maybe angry sometimes. What makes you smile? What makes you happy?
Well, I smile at a lot of things, including bogus questions from the media, man. I mean... Well, I smile at a lot of things, including bogus questions from the media, man. I mean, look, I think if you watch a full speech that I give, I actually am having a good time out here, and I'm enjoying this.
I'm having a good time out here, and I'm enjoying this.
I'm having a good time out here, and I'm enjoying this.
And I'm enjoying this.
But look, sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. Bread. And right now
I am angry about...
What an unserious, unfunny person and joke I am.
Harris has done to this country.
Done to the American Southern...
But you said these words 3.5 hours before an attempted assassination on your life. You told me that bad things happen, Harris, and that's why this decision is important this time. Bad things happen. You said it twice. When you look at J.D. Vance, is he ready on day one?
Does he what?
Ready on day one, if he has to be.
I've always had great respect for him, and for the other candidates too. But I will say this, and I think this is well documented. Historically, the vice president, in terms of the election, does not have any impact. I mean, virtually no impact. You have 2 or 3 days where there's a lot of commotion as to who, like you're having it on the Democrat side, who it's going to be. And then that dies down, and it's all about the presidential pick. Virtually never has it mattered. Maybe Lyndon Johnson mattered for different reasons of what we're talking about, not for vote reasons, but for political reasons, other political reasons. But Historically, the choice of a vice president makes no difference. You're voting for the president, and you can have a vice president who's outstanding in every way, and I think JD is. I think that all of them would have been, but you're not voting that way. You're voting for the president. You're voting for me. If you like me, I'm going to win. If you don't like me, I'm not going to win.
Matters. President Trump has said you are outstanding, but when you look at what decides elections, the vice presidential pick rarely matters. How are you going to prove him wrong?
Well, I think President Trump's right about that, actually. I think most people were voting for Donald Trump or for Kamala Harris. Donald Trump delivered rising wages and a secure border. Kamala Harris has delivered an open border and falling wages.
President Trump has said you are outstanding, but when you look at what decides elections, the vice presidential pick rarely matters. How are you going to prove him wrong?
Well, I think President Trump's right about that, actually.
Well, I think President Trump's right about that, actually.
I think most people, 99% of the country, they don't vote. Most people, 99% of the country, they don't. Most people, 99% of the country, they don't vote on who the vice presidential nominee. They're voting for. Most people, 99% of the country, they don't vote on who the vice presidential nominee. They're voting for Donald Trump or for Kamala Harris, not for JD or Tim Walz, right? Most people, 99% of the country, they don't vote on who the vice presidential nominee. They're voting for Donald Trump or for Kamala Harris, not for JD or Tim Walz, right? But what I think that he does believe, because he made it the main focus of his vetting process, is vice presidential nominee. They're voting for Donald Trump or for Kamala Harris, not for JD or Tim Walz, right? But what I think that he does believe, because he made it the main focus of his vetting process, is, do I think this person can be president on day one if, God forbid, something happens? Yes. So I absolutely am sure that Donald Trump is confident in my abilities. I also think that he's right, that the politics of this really don't matter that much. Right? But what I think that he does believe, because he made it.
He would not have certified those electors.
Can I show you what
JD
nail in his coup coffin and then left him to die? His supporters wanted to, quote, hang Mike Pence.
And by the way, JD Vance has said he would not have certified those electors.
The whole reason Donald Trump needs a new VP is because he called Mike. The whole reason Donald Trump needs a new VP is because he called Mike Pence the P word because he wouldn't be the final nail in his coup coffin and then left him to die. His supporters wanted to, quote, hang Mike Pence.
And by the way, JD Vance has said he would not have certified those electors.
Can I show you what JD? So JD Vance was actually, confronted by Fox's Brett Baier about all the things JD Vance said about Donald Trump. Let me show you that.
Well, Senator, this is an evolution, and I know you've been asked about this before, about past comments that you've made about Donald Trump. You've said, I'm a never Trump guy, never liked him, terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroine, noxious and reprehensible.
I was wrong about Donald Trump. I didn't think he was going to be a good president, Brett. He was a great president.
I don't know if the flip-flop doesn't make you throw up in.
That Vice President Harris's quote. I want to ask you about the former president's comments yesterday to the National Association of Black Journalists, where he said that Vice President Harris is, quote, all of a sudden black. As a father of 3 biracial children, did those comments give you pause at all?
They don't give me pause at all. Look, all he said is that Kamala Harris is a chameleon. She goes to Georgia 2 days ago. She was raised in Canada. She puts on a fake Southern accent. She is everything to everybody, and she pretends to be somebody different depending on which audience she's in front of. I think it's totally reasonable for the president to call that out, and that's all he did. I mean,
JD was probably not for me, but he.
Trump basically says, now he's the doormat that I need.
Why did you pick JD Vance?
We've always had a good chemistry, and originally JD was probably not for me, but he didn't know me. And then when we got to know each other, he liked me maybe more than anybody liked me, and he would stick up for me, and he'd fight for the worker as much as I fight for the worker. We just had an automatic chemistry.
It was like love at first sight, except for the fact that J.D. Vance spent 6 years attacking me in some of the most aggressive ways, including analogizing me to Hitler. But it was just chemistry. You know it when you feel it. I felt a tingle down.
During the 2016 campaign, effectively wrote the book about the seeds of the Trump movement called The Hillbilly Elegy. Back then, Vance was a very big critic of Trump. He tweeted about this. He said things on TV that were very critical. But since then, he's reinvented himself as very much a MAGA warrior, an isolationist on the world stage.
And then J.D. Vance tries to explain why he thinks Trump has a great sense of humor, and he says because Trump makes fun of people. Play this clip.
And so, look, I think my message to the American people is very simple on this, that President Trump in particular has the best sense of humor of anybody I've ever seen in American politics. He loves to joke. He loves to tell, he loves to make fun of everybody that's out there.
Appearing together and super supportive of one another. So Kristen Welker asked this question.
Let's move on. Robert F. Kennedy, the big news yesterday.
Very big news.
He suspended his campaign, announced he's endorsing Donald Trump. Do you have any hesitation about accepting his endorsement?
No, Kristen, I don't, because we're going to disagree on issues, right? There are things that Robert Kennedy has said that I disagree with. I'm sure there are things that he said, or that I've said, excuse me, that he's going to disagree with. But I think what his endorsement represents is that Donald J. Trump's Republican Party is a big tent party. I was raised by two grandparents who are sort of classic blue dog Democrats. They believed in having a border. They believed that, you shouldn't have censorship in the United States of policy, but they believed in some fundamental American values. And I think what RFK's endorsement really shows is that the Kennedy Democrats are actually more at home in the Republican Party of Donald Trump, and unfortunately Kamala Harris's party.
So while J.D. Vance claims Kennedy Democrats are more at home in Trump's party, Kennedy's actual family is denouncing him. So the truth is that Kennedy's entire family denounced him. They shared on Kerry Kennedy's Twitter, "I am sharing a personal statement that my family and I have made in response to my brother's announcement. Statement on Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s announcement today. We want an America filled with hope and bound together by a shared vision of a brighter future. A future defined by individual freedom, economic promise, and national pride. We believe in Harris and Walls. Our brother Bobby's decision to endorse Trump today is a betrayal of the values that our father and our family hold most dear. It is a sad ending to a sad story." Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, Courtney Kennedy, Kerry Kennedy, Chris Kennedy, and Rory Kennedy. So they have all signed this statement, speaking out against him, speaking out against Trump, and in fact, the opposite of what J.D. Vance is saying, that today's Democrats feel more comfortable with Trump. That is insane. It's very sad. I actually used to like Bobby Kennedy Jr., but then he got more and more unhinged. The things he's done and said lately are just pathetic and sad and scary. And J.D. Vance is pathetic, sad, and scary. He's trying to claim that Kamala Harris is a chameleon because she is multiracial, multicultural, and that just shows how close-minded and small-minded he is and they are. And it's really sad to me and pretty pathetic. So I'm making this video on TikTok, this little section, but I'm going to be sharing this at the end of a video I'm making about J.D. Vance on my Cat Love Dreaming Peach YouTube if you want to follow me there. Okay, so vote for Kamala and Walls, and see you soon. Bye.
There's a lot of rumor that's going to be this guy Tim Walz, who's a governor from Minnesota. I don't know anything about him. He seems really angry. There's a lot of talk is going to be this guy Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, who, I've seen a couple clips of him talking. He talks like Barack Obama. It's like if I did try to do a really bad impression of Barack Obama, that's what it would sound like, is this guy Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania. Yeah, go watch a clip of his and tell me if you agree with me. And then there's a bunch of other names out there. My attitude is it doesn't really care. As much as it doesn't really matter. As much as this is a hit to my ego, people are going to vote primarily for Donald Trump or for Kamala Harris. Right. That's the way these things go. And I think my job over the next few months is to just drive home the message that Kamala Harris has been a bad vice president, she'd be a worse president. And that's the message I'm going to take to the American people.
Awesome. Well,
thank you so much. His vice presidential running mate. What does his pick of J.D. Vance
as a Veep, as his vice presidential running mate, suggests to you, Larry?
Well, that's generational. J.D. Vance is 39 years old. He would be the third youngest vice president in American history. He's the same age that Richard Nixon was when General Eisenhower picked him to run for vice president back in 1952. But Nixon had 4 years in the U.S. House and 2 years in the U.S. Senate. J.D. Vance has had a total of 1.5 years in the Senate, and that was his first elective office. So this country has moved away from experience. He's an interesting guy. He went to Yale Law School. He's a very bright guy. Personality in between. He's not the warmest person. But the most interesting thing is he was one of the leaders of the anti-Trump movement. Warmest person. But the most interesting thing, went to Yale Law School. He's a very bright guy. Personality in between. He's not the warmest person. But the most interesting thing is he was one of the leaders of the anti-Trump movement in 2016. He called himself Never Trump. Now he's Ever Trump.
All of my years of public life, and I want to say this to the television audience, I made my mistakes, but in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I can say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
President?
Yes, sir.
Where the president can decide that it's in the best interest of the nation or something, and do something illegal.
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
By definition.
Exactly. Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
By definition.
Exactly.
I'm going to read it in my own voice because it got blocked out for copyright. Nixon.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I just hope I haven't let you down.
I just hope I haven't let you down. Well, when I said, I just hope I haven't let you down, that's...
And I have to carry that burden with me.
And I have to carry that burden with me for the rest of my
Former
life.
President Trump held a rally last night for Ohio Senate candidate J.D. Vance, and here's what the Trump endorsement looks like these days. Let's listen.
The New York Times did a fake story today, big front page, that J.D. wasn't sure if he wanted my support. J.D. is kissing my ass. He wants my support. So this is a great person who I've really gotten to know. Yeah, he said some bad things about me, but that was before he knew me, and then he fell in love.
Yeah, Barbara, I mean, what do you think? Was that helpful to J.D. Vance at all?
I thought that was an in-kind contribution to Tim Ryan, the Democrat. I mean, it made J.D. Vance look like a mouse, not a man. It was humiliating. And that rally last night, it was a QAnon fest. It was playing this strange QAnon music. They were all sort of, bowing to, I think Marjorie Greene was there talking about the one true leader they have to be loyal to. And it actually was not very well attended. It wasn't the usual, so I think this is a dying, the last gasps of a dying cult, not I do think this is an embarrassment. And if I were, J.D. Vance is really a shell of a person to be there bowing and scraping to somebody who he rightfully attacked, just a few years ago. And those statements are out there publicly, and I think the best thing for Tim Ryan would be to put his prior statements where he attacked Donald Trump, and then Donald Trump last night talking about how he's, kissing the orange one now, and bowing and scraping to him, because that's not a man that you want to have in the U.S. Senate, because it's not someone who will stand up for Ohio. It's somebody who's going to be kissing the guy in Mar-a-Lago and bowing and scraping to whatever he wants.
Are not violent people.
Our nominee.
We're effectively run in this country by a bunch of childless cat ladies. We're effectively run in this country by a bunch of childless cat ladies.
I got to be honest with you, I don't really care what happens to Ukraine one way or another.
Donald Trump's supporters are not violent people.
Our nominee.
for the office of Vice President of the United States, Senator J.D. Vance.
To show his courage, his defiance against somebody who tried.
The elites were right about Donald Trump, right? I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
He's exploiting.
To show his courage, his defiance against somebody who tried.
The elites were right about Donald Trump, right? I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
He's exploiting some of the racism that's there, but he's also exploiting people's fears. I think that he's leading people in a very dark direction, and that's ultimately what worries me the most.
Terrible candidate. Idiot if you voted for him. Might be America's Hitler.
I was wrong about Donald Trump. I didn't think he was going to be a good president, Brett. He was a great president.
Yeah, he said some bad things about me, but that was before he knew me, and then he fell in love.
Might be America's Hitler.
I was wrong about Donald Trump. I didn't think he was going to be a good president, Brett. He was a great president.
Yeah, he said some bad things about me, but that was before he knew me, and then he fell in love.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. If you look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it? The best way to help Ukraine, I think, from a European perspective, is for Europe to become more self-sufficient. Vladimir Putin is, of course, in the geopolitical backyard of Europe. The United States, as it focuses more on East Asia, simply can't be expected to foot a disproportionate share of the burden. No, we're talking about the border. We need people who are going to fight. Was the election in 2020 free and fair? Was it above board? And my answer is no. I really don't think that it was.
The New York Times did a fake story today, big front page, that JD wasn't sure if he wanted my support. JD is kissing my ass. He wants my support. So this is a great person who I've really gotten to know. Yeah, he said some bad things about me, but that was before he knew me, and then he fell in love.
J.D. Vance, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Senator, good to see you. Your thoughts? Did you hear this speech? What'd you think?
You're taking a time out there in Nebraska. We're talking to you early in the morning, but you look good. All right, I'm a mess, but you look good.
Well, Chicago, did you catch any of the DNC tonight? Or last night, if you did, what were your immediate thoughts? Well,
You've been criticized as being a little too serious, maybe angry sometimes. What makes you smile? What makes you happy? A little too serious, maybe angry sometimes. What makes you smile? What makes you happy?
Well, I smile at a lot of things, including bogus questions from the media, man. I mean, look. Well, I smile at a lot of things, including bogus questions from the media, man. I mean, look, I think if you watch a full speech that I give, I actually am having a good time out here, and I'm enjoying this.
I'm having a good time out here, and I'm enjoying this.
And I'm enjoying this.
But look, sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. Bread. And right now
I am angry about.
What an unserious, unfunny person and joke I am.
Done to this country.
Done to the American Southern.
CatLoveDreamingPeach.com.
And the rest of the goddamn United States of America.
Red and blue. Let's turn purple.